we're gonna have some fun this evening. Wow, I'm so excited. This is a legit place. If you don't have a church crib, I'm sorry. If you don't have a church home and you live anywhere around here, or you have a TV or you have internet, this is a great place to get fed. Like, for real, it is. It's a great place to get fed. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here. I can't begin to tell you, this is cool. Wow, apparently Wonder Woman had a stool. This is awesome. Right here, it's like Wonder Woman had a stool. Some of you guys are thinking biological. I'm talking about the actual. All right, so we're going to have some fun. Here's what's going to happen this evening. There's this thing that I've been doing my entire career, but I didn't recognize I was doing it until recently, and I want to share with you what I was doing because you may be doing something similar. Now, how do I set this up? So when I'm on stage, this was always taking place, but I just realized it recently. When I'm on stage, I may be presenting joke number one. But at the same time, I'm doing the math on what I think joke number two should be based off how you're currently responding to joke number one. And then what I would do is I would start doing the math on what I think joke number three should be based off how you're currently responding to joke number one, and probably would respond to joke number two. Then I'd move on to joke number four. I actually would go 7 jokes deep. So I would already be doing the math on what I think joke number 7 should be, even though I'm presenting joke number 1, and the rotation would continue the entire night. And the question I would be asking in between the jokes while people are laughing is, what jokes can I do to get more laughs from people? How can I get more laughs from people? But then I met Jesus, and he changed my question. So now I can't go 7 jokes. I can't go 7 deep anymore. At the most, I can go like 3. Because I'm asking a different question now. And the question I'm asking is, what can I give to my audience? So most of the time it's something funny, but sometimes it's something even more, and I gotta do more math on how to present that thing, so I can only go 3 deep, because I'm listening between the gaps. By the way, whatever you do in life, there's gaps. What question are you asking in between the gaps? Is it a question of what can I give, or is it a question of what can I get? And if you don't know the answer to that question, I think you know the answer to that question. Since the fruit, we've been asking, what can we get? So I'm gonna jump into some jokes first. I'm pretty confident about that. We already talked enough. I'm just happy to be here, man. This is what I remember most about here. I mean, we prayed a lot last time I was here. It was some awesome messages, but there were some sweet potatoes somewhere. I don't know who gave them to me, but I remember being in this building and I had some sweet potatoes and they were amazing. So if you're here, could you raise your hand if you made them sweet potatoes last time I was here? Like, that stuff was delicious. Me and my wife talked about those sweet potatoes today when I was leaving. She's like, hey, see if you can find out about the sweet potatoes. They didn't mention anything about your last message at all. She was just like, hey, tell me, I'm just. So the pandemic is over. That's awesome. Yeah, except for in California, it just started. It just started in California. My niece recently asked me to help her with some homework. She asked me, she wanted to know, she was doing English, and she said, what's the difference between a soft G and a hard G? And I was like, this is all I could come up with. I was like, a soft G is from the Bay Area. A hard G is from Compton. I'm pretty sure she failed that class. I'm pretty sure she failed it. But the pandemic is over now. I mean, that's super exciting. First thing I learned from the pandemic is I'm not essential. I found that out. The whole time I thought I was, and I read the Bible and everything. The government was like, nope, sit yourself down somewhere. And I used to wear a mask everywhere I would go. I'd always wear a mask. It's very important. I would wear a mask. Only time I take it off in public is if I had to sneeze. That's the only time. Because I didn't want to keep that to myself, man. I can't be. Some great things happen as a result of the pandemic. I don't know if you recognize it or not, but like bad breath was gone. It's making a comeback, but it was gone for a little while. And I figured out what happened to it. The people who had bad breath, at first they didn't know it. Then they had to put a mask on. It was like, what in the world is this? It's like I tried to tell you, but my eyes was burning, had to run off. And I grew up in Michigan, so I found one of my old ski masks too. I wear a ski mask. Yeah, I walk around Dallas with a ski mask. So. Went to the bank. I wasn't thinking, I went to the bank, right? And I don't want to talk because that's how you get germs over the place. So I would just slide notes and be like, hey, let me just get my... I wasn't thinking. And I don't know how it was here in San Antonio, right? Or wherever you are as you're watching. I don't know how it was there, but when I would take my son to school, he couldn't get out the car without them taking his temperature first. Like he couldn't get out the car. I'll pull up and they would not let him out the car without taking his temperature. Then when I go pick him up, they try to put him right in the car. We need to check his temperature first. They're like, you're holding up the carpool line. I'm like, I don't care, we're gonna check his temperature. If you're under 20 years old, you have no idea what I'm doing. You don't know what this is. You don't even know what this is. My son is like, Dad, this is embarrassing. I'm like, you know what? There's two ways we could do this. You want to say that? Why was that ever okay? That should have never been okay. Some of us need deliverance from that right now. The other thing I'm excited about is we can hug now. I love people. I love people. I'm a hugger too. Fellas, we hug, right? So, talk to the fellas. The ladies like, yeah, I'm not even talking to y'all. I'm not talking to you. The fellas, we hug, right? But we got some rules when we hug, don't we, fellas?
Yeah.
Do y'all know the rules? Yeah. See how quiet it got just now? You know why? Because we don't know the rules. We just know the rules. We don't talk about the rules. If you're a man in here and you talk to another man about how you want to be hugged, stand up. It's not something that comes up when we're playing basketball. We don't talk about it. But there are rules. I'm going to share them with you. I'm going to share a couple of the rules with you. A few of the rules. Rule number 1, the hug can only last 1.4 seconds. And you know the hug is over because rule number 2, every time we hug, what we do? We tap out. Tap, tap, release. Nobody taught you to tap out. You just know you're supposed to tap out. Tap, tap, release. Fellas, you ever tap out and they don't release? I'm like, tap, tap, bro. Tap, tap. I'm doing Morse code on this dude back. Tap, tap. I tapped him so hard he burped. I'm like, dude, you just burped, man. You just burped. Another rule we have is left hand under, right hand over, tap out, release. That's a rule. Some of the fellas like, is that a rule? Let me show it to you again. It's left hand under, right hand over, tap out, release. I don't care if you left hand, that's the rule. Some of the fellas like, is that a rule for real? Let me show it to you. You ever have a dude try to go under? He can't go under. He go under, you gotta go over. Now y'all slow dancing. That's what you're doing. You're slow dancing. Turn on Luther Vandross now at this point. I'll give you one more rule. I'm 6'2". If you 5'2", I'm sorry, bro. You out the hug zone. I don't know what to do with your head in my chest. There, buddy. How's my heartbeat, buddy? How's my heartbeat? So I want to give you guys a visual segue because some of the stuff that will happen tonight will probably be a little more, there's a few stories I feel like I'm going to end up telling, and I want to make sure you know the difference between when I'm doing stand-up and when I'm not. So if I sit here, I'm probably going into one of the stories or something I want to share, but if I'm standing up, I'm doing stand-up. Who knows where I'll go? Oh, by the way, there's 4 words. I want to get you to see where there's 4 words you can use at the end of any amazing story, and people will believe your story. You just got to use these 4 words. I'm going to tell you an amazing story. I met a lady who had a tail. For real. Actual lady had a tail. I was at Walmart. Did you see what just happened in your brain just now? He's like, a lady had a tail. I was at Walmart. Oh, yeah. I know her. Yeah. Why'd you say that? I don't think the people at Walmart are crazy. I know people say they are. I don't think that's the case at all. I think what happens is when we go to Walmart, we don't even know it, but we become those people. I think as soon as you cross the threshold, 3 teeth fall out immediately. And suddenly you got on pajamas and house shoes. You don't even know. I got bunny rabbits on my feet. I got bunny rabbits. So I moved. Wow, okay. All right, cool. It's a little noisy. Okay, cool. My feet swinging. I feel like I'm not 6'2". I feel like I'm 6. So I lived in New York City. I moved to New York City because I wanted to do comedy. And I wanted to know if I was funny. In New York, if you're not funny, the way to let you know is they'll say something like, "You're not funny." So at the time, I moved to New York City, and I didn't realize, because I didn't really have access. The internet was like brand new in my neighborhood. It was when the internet started in my neighborhood. It was making noises like that. So I moved to New York City, and I didn't know, because doing comedy the way I was doing it in the Midwest, in Michigan, comedy clubs paid about $400 for a whole week or so. So basically, probably about $100, $200 a show was really what it came out to at the time. I moved to New York City, that wasn't the case. They paid $12. On the weekend, during the week, it was like $8. So it wasn't too long after me moving to New York City that my address had to change. My address was 1997 Lumina Drive. I drove a 1997 Lumina. Yeah, they were one and the same in case you're not catching on right now. So it wasn't long before I was living in my car. Like I didn't have enough money to live in New York City, but I didn't have enough money to leave New York City either. So I'm in New York City, right? And I'm in my car, and this is what I would do. I wake up every morning by default, I wake up at 6 o'clock. Just as a grown man, I wake up like at 6 o'clock. But what would happen, because things were really, really tight, I wouldn't wake up until like 11 because I didn't want to wake up hungry. I didn't have money for breakfast, so I would just sleep for breakfast. And I would hit this Subway. They had meatball subs for $5 each. I would cut the sub in half. I would eat it at like 11:30. I'd save the other half until after I did a comedy set somewhere. So I was wrestling money like it was very, 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 very tight. So I'm hitting the clubs as much as I can, and I go to this one club, and this comedian named George Wallace sees me there. Now, George Wallace is a very established comedian. And he sees me, and he sees that I'm funny and I'm clean. And he said, "You're really funny and you're clean. I want you to do a show with me and my best friend in a few nights." I'm pumped. I'm excited. I get his phone number. I'm all excited. I'm like, yes. I go back and I start doing the math. I'm sitting in my den, passenger seat. And I start doing the math on if I could get to the show or not, because I never asked George Wallace if he was going to pay me, because that's not something you can do. This is an awesome opportunity. I can't be like, yeah, I want to go, and then suddenly like, how much you going to pay me? It's not something you do. So I'm sitting there and I'm doing the math, and I'm like, okay, it's cool. So I figured I had enough for like 3 more days of subs. And then what would happen is I would put gas in my car, but I would have to start it up at night to stay warm for about 20 minutes at a time to stay warm. And then I would turn it off, and then I just stretched it out. I figured at the end, I would have about $3.42 left before my next show. I was like, this is perfect, this is great. Only problem is George Wallace, the show was in New Jersey, which means there was an $8 toll charge at the time to get back into New York City. If I do the show in New Jersey, I don't know, and he doesn't give me any money, how am I going to get back? So I'm sitting there in my car, and I don't know Jesus. I don't know anything about Jesus. I can't even pray. I'm like, I don't know what. So I just said, I'm gonna just go and see what happens. So I go to this club, and I park way down the street. Mainly because I wanted to save gas, right? And parking was expensive. So I walk up to this club, and this big bouncer dude is standing outside the club. This big swole. He got all this big like, "Yo, can I help you?" That's what he said. And this dude was huge. Every time he talked, his gold chain would rattle. "Can I help you?" And then, I don't know what happened, but when I talked to him, he had so much bass, he took my bass away.
was like, yeah, Micheal Jr., George Wallace had said that I could come here. Micheal Jr.,
And he was like, yeah, Mike Jr. And he opened the door for me. There was something so powerful about somebody saying my name and opening the door. It was just something really powerful in that moment. So I walk into this club, and there's all these beautiful people, just like tonight. And the thing that I noticed that really kind of moved me a little bit, but this will sound silly now, but the people were eating with silverware. It had been so long since I saw silverware. I was just like, wow, this place is fancy. So I was thinking, I just hadn't seen silverware in a while. So I go do the show, and his best friend at the show is Jerry Seinfeld. So it's me, George Wallace, Jerry Seinfeld. I did 2 shows that night. I did 2 stand ovations. I'm ripped. I'm like, yeah. After the show, people start leaving. Like the audience is gone, and then Seinfeld's gone. He's not there. And then George Wallace leaves, and people leave. And nobody's giving me any money yet. And I'm patient, I'm sitting around, but I don't know if anybody's giving me money, but I'm gonna wait as long as I can, and I'm kind of standing there a little bit, and the manager is walking right towards me. So I stand, and he's walking, like, we're making eye contact, and he's walking to me. So I'm like, yo, this is it. And he says to me, Mike, we had some great sets tonight, really funny stuff. I was like, oh, thanks, man. He said, hey, let me ask you something. Would you like to go to church with me this weekend? I was like, church? Man, back up, you're making my feet hurt. I don't want to go to church. That was the thought that I had. Now listen, I'm gonna pause real quick for a second. It's gonna get extra deep. I'm just gonna share something with you. The reason I had this thought about back up, you're making my feet hurt, that was an actual thought that I had. I didn't say it out loud. But when my grandmother used to take me to church as a child, my shoes were like 3 sizes too small. My grandmother had this thing called a shoehorn. So if your foot don't fit, now it do. Church lasts 6 hours. So my feet was all balled up for 6 hours at a time every time I went to church. Now, back at the club, when this guy invites me to church, immediately I have this thought, back up, you're making my feet hurt. What happened is I had a negative neural association attached to going to church. So every time someone would reproach me with the Bible or God's word, I would say no, because I wasn't sensitive enough to notice there was actually something else going on. Could it be that you or some of your friends have something else going on and it's keeping you away from really having a relationship with God that doesn't have anything to do with Him? So this dude invites me to church. I was like, nah, man, I'm cool. I don't want to go to church. I can't. Nah, I'm good. Because I didn't know any of the neural association stuff at the time. I was like, I'm cool. I don't want to go to church. There's 2 reasons you do anything in life. Only 2 reasons. That's it. To avoid pain or to gain pleasure. He invites me to church. My default was, nah, I'm cool, I ain't going to church. 20 minutes later, his fiance asked me to go. And she was fun. Talking about beautiful. So this is what happened. So I'm at the club and this dude leaves. He says, okay, yeah, we're going to church. And he walks off. He didn't give me no money. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, I don't know anybody in New Jersey. I don't have any money. I have no gas in my car. I can't get back to New York City. What am I supposed to do now? And I remember going to it sounds sad or whatever, but I remember grabbing some of the peanuts off the bar. I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna put them in my pocket. And then I went to the bathroom because the one in my apartment don't exist. And then I'm walking out and I could feel myself getting ready to cry, but I'm not gonna cry in the club, but I could feel, you know how you could just feel like I could just feel it about to happen. And I walk out. You ever see the scene in the movie where the woman shows up and it's like some music is playing and she's all beautiful and like a light is on her? It was his fiance. She came out and her hair was blowing in the wind, but she was black, so it wasn't blowing that much. It was just blowing like this. She had this accent. She said, Micheal Jr., would you like to go to church with us? She said she was the fiance of the club manager. I thought she said she was Beyonce. I was like, she said, would you like to go to church with us? I was like, I was just looking for a church the other day. So she takes it, so she writes the address to this church on this napkin, and she hands it to me. And I'm just smiling at her, and then she just floated off. And she just walked off, and I was like, wow. And I look at the napkin. It's a New York City address. And the reality of my situation just came crashing down. Like, I can't get to New York City. I don't know where I'm going when I leave this place. At this point, I got to leave. So I walk out the door. I'm walking down the little path, and I'm walking down the sidewalk. And I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I know that I'm about to break down and start crying. And I hear a voice, yo, Mike Jr. It's the big bouncer dude. Kind of sound like that, but not exactly. It's the big bouncer dude. And I'm looking him in his eyes, I'm walking towards him, and I can see that he has more respect for me now. I can't explain, but I can see that he's looking at me with a little different now. And I can also tell that we're about to clap hands, because that's black people, we don't have to talk about it. I know some of my white friends are like, high five, buddy. No, we don't have to discuss it first. I know this is about to happen. And he's walking up to me, and I'm bracing myself, because this is a big dude. And I know the slap is gonna be loud, so I go ahead and I bring it in and blow, and the slap isn't as loud as I thought. And the reason it's not as loud as we bring it in for the half hug is this dude is exchanging some money in my hand. And now all of those emotions from before are welling up, and I start to tear up. But I'm still hugging this big dude. I don't want to come off these tears like, yo. So I'm blinking real fast, trying to dry these tears up. And I pulled back, and he said, George Wallace said to give you a little something, something. And I was like, oh, yeah, thanks, man, trying to be cool. Right? And I didn't look, because you can't look right there, right? So I'm walking in my car, and now I'm super excited, right? Because I can feel that there's 2 bills, even though I didn't look. I don't know what they pay in New Jersey. I did 2 shows. Is it 2 10s? What if it's 2 20s? Like, I'm pumped. I get to my car, and I'm excited, and I take all my stuff, and I set it on the passenger seat. I set it all over there, and I'm sitting down, and I open my hand, and all those emotions are coming back up, and I open my hands like a finger out of it real slow, and the next sound, I just remember a sound. I hear the sound of my tears crashing down on $200 bills. And I'm done. I'm done. So I'm sitting in the driver's seat, really just weeping. The next thing I see is a crumpled up napkin with an address to a church. And I've been in that church. And that's where I got saved at. Emotional. It was getting emotional. I mean, I guess it's okay. So I have a friend, every time I see him, I buy him a smart water. Then the next time I see him, I'm always disappointed. You didn't get that joke. You should get a bottle of water. You ever see the pictures of, you ever see them pictures of the Last Supper? You ever see them pictures? Why are they all on the same side of the table? Was somebody taking a picture? They're like, all right, look right here. And then Judas like. I got a friend who used to be on drugs. He stopped. He said, dude, I'm done. He said, I quit cold turkey. I was like, just for clarity, cold turkey wasn't your problem. I just want to be clear about that. Like, but dude loves Jesus now, like he's a Christian. And he calls me up with Bible facts randomly. Like, dude, did you know they got stoned in the Bible? Yeah, but that was different from what you was doing. I'm making sure you know that. And I wanted to make sure he knew there was a difference, so I hit him with a rock, just to make sure he knew. Let's just hit him with a rock. I got 3 grandkids, man. It's so awesome. I got 3 grandkids. It's so dope. So here's the thing. I don't know. I have we got 5 kids, right? And I was there for like the births and stuff, but I didn't pay attention to all of the details, so it kind of got blurry when my daughter was pregnant, about to have a baby. She calls herself excited. Well, I guess she's excited, and I don't know if this happened recently, okay? I'm just giving you the raw version of what took place. She called, and my wife put her on speaker, and she's like almost 9 months pregnant, and she like, because I don't know the verbiage, y'all just gotta bear with me, I didn't know. She said, guess what? I was like, what? Because I know stuff like water broke, and that's it, really. That's the only phrases I know. And she called, and I don't want her stressed out, right? She's like, I lost my mucus plug. I was like, okay. Where did you have it last? Because I don't want her stressing, right? I was like, where was it? Like, you know what? I'm gonna Google it. I'm gonna get you another one. I'm gonna order you. What size you need? What size is it? My wife was like, no, you don't understand. That's not what that is. I said, there's some pictures of my grandkids that are pretty awesome. The kids are like, I don't get that one. I went into this business and it was clear that they did not want to serve me because of the color of my skin. I'm not going back to that tanning salon. Listen, the only reason I went into a tanning salon is because I wanted to come out of a tanning salon. I timed it perfect too. I timed it perfect. I was walking out and these 2 little white ladies were walking in. I was like, yo, they didn't calibrate. I can snap on beat now, so.
Snap on beat now.
I'm not going to explain the last part, I guess I should. I was at the airport and this woman, I love people, right? I just love people, right? I'm at the airport and but I'm in a rush, right? And this lady sees me and I know she's like a fan. You can tell because she froze. She's like, oh. I was like, hey, and now I'm froze too because I can't just walk off because that's just not right. But she's not saying nothing. So she's staring at me. I'm like, hey, she's like, oh, like, hey. Like nothing. Then some dude walked by like, yo, why don't you get her number, dude? I was like, no, it's not that. She's staring. I'm like, you want a picture? She's like, yes, please. And she still don't move. So I just took my phone, man, and went up next to her, took a selfie, and then I just walked off. That's what I did. I just walked off. Took a picture with my phone. She's like, thank you. I was like, all right. That was hilarious to me. Fellas, there's a way that you can tell that you're getting old. There's a phrase that you will think right before you start getting old. And here's the thing, if you think this phrase, it's okay. But just don't say it out loud. Because if you say it out loud, you will expedite the process. So I'm gonna tell you what the phrase is, and just think it, but don't say it out loud. At some point in your life, you're gonna say to yourself, you're gonna think to yourself, don't say it, you're gonna think, you know what? Them fanny packs do look pretty handy. Don't say it out loud. If you do, a pair of all white New Balances don't show up in the mail. At that point, you might as well cut some slits and some tennis balls. Used to always tell me, you gotta be a gentleman. You girls gotta be a gentleman. Nobody teaches you how to be a gentleman. Like, they don't teach you. Then when I got older, found out they had a club. Don't go there. I'm just playing. Let it go. I told my niece, I said, whatever you do, because she wants to get married. She's been really wanting to get married. I said, whatever you do, you gotta make sure you get a man with his eyes on the cross. I don't think she heard me right. She came back with a cross-eyed man. And I was like, I think you're lesnistic. I think you might be lesnistic. Man, okay, cool. 14 years old, I had this job at an oil change place. 14 years old, this was my schedule. I wake up in the morning. I haven't told this story in a while. This is one of the stories. I wrote a book called no, that's not the name of it. Funny How Life Works. That's the name of the book. This is one of the stories. One of my favorite stories in the book is about a fugitive who was at my show. I was listening between the gaps. I said something. This dude is a fugitive of the law. Like they're looking for him. And he came to my comedy show to get away from all the pressure. At the end of the show, he asked me, because of what I said between the gaps, if I would help him turn himself into the authorities. And we did. Like, for real. That dude is in prison right now. That stuff blew me back. Anyway, that's not the story I'm telling. So I work at this oil change place, and I'm 14 years old, and I'm 14 years old, I'm working in this oil change place. Now, if you've ever seen an oil change place, normally, it's not the ones that would lift up. They have a big pit. And I worked in a pit, and I was really good at the pit. I used to work really, really well at the pit, right? And my manager at this place, name was Mike. Awesome manager, used to always constantly give me feedback and encourage me in a great way. Great dude. The reason he would always look out for me the way he did is because he's also Micheal Sr. He's my dad. Now here's the thing, nobody there really knew that he was my dad. I mean, people knew he was my dad, but I wouldn't call him dad at work. He just said, we just didn't do that, right? So I always work in a pit, but I got so fast. There was 3 bays, but I got so fast in the pit, sometimes I would come up to help, put air in the tires, maybe check a transaction valve, or just help out any way I can. Just do whatever, fill up some washers, all the fluid. So one day, my dad is normally off on like Thursdays, and I think he was off on Mondays as well. But this new assistant manager gets transferred to our location. And I'm down in the pit working, and it's my dad's off day. And this guy was very rude to me on a regular basis. He would say some kind of racist things, but he would never say it when the manager was around. He would just say it when he would say it to me. One time he said to me, like I finished up all the cars, and I got up top, and I was helping him put air in the tire. And then he said to me, hey, Junior boy, why don't you get back in the pit where you belong? Which was really, and then it was hurtful. And then he would say some more negative stuff in front of customers to get me back down into the pit. And as he would put it, where I should be. Now, I never told my dad about this because I didn't want because listen, my dad, I just wanted my dad around. I didn't want to go visit him. So I would never tell my dad about this. So one day I'm working down in the pit, I'm doing all the stuff I need to do, and the manager's name was Mark, the guy who was very, in this one in particular time, he said something really, really not cool to me. And I still remember this white lady, her car was getting worked on, and we were looking at each other when he said it to me, and then she just put her head down like this, because she was embarrassed by the statement. I was hurt. I walked down into the pit. And then I hear a voice. Yo, Mark, let me talk to you. But I know that voice because I got scared. Because I thought he said, Mike Jr., let me talk to you for a second. It was my dad. He's not even supposed to be here. He heard what happened. I'm down in the pit. I'm like, oh, snap. What is about to happen? So now I'm in the pit, if you can imagine. And I'm under a Honda Accord, I still remember. And there's only like 8 inches that you could see from the floor to the bottom of the car. And I'm trying to look like this because there's a little edge. I'm trying to look to see what happened. And I see my dad's size 13 black steel-toed boots walking off to the side. Then I see Mark size 9 right behind him. They're all shiny and new, and I'm looking, and I can't, and then the car starts up, so now I can't hear anything. And I'm looking, I'm trying to see what happened, and now my dad's feet are pointed this way, and Mark's feet are pointed right at his, as if they're like face to face. And I look, and I'm assuming that the conversation must be over because Mark's left foot goes into the air, and I'm assuming he's about to plant it and let it down. but then his right foot goes in the air also. And I don't see his feet for a little while. And then they come back down into the shot, and then he walks off. I come up out of the pit to see what had happened, what's going on. And Mark is the nicest human being in the world. Is there anything I can help you with? I'm going downstairs to help you in the pit. Like, he's the nicest person ever from that point on. I was in a pit. I was in a low place. And my Father up top saw what was going on. Just like your Father sees what's going on. And he will lift you out of that place and make sure you're properly positioned. Okay, I'm gonna do another joke, man. This is awesome. So we used to be poor when I was a kid.